Welcome back to the channel. This is part 4 of creating T&J. And yes, we finally made it. We're to the final stage of the process. We're going to add color to the T&J line art. And I really appreciate the love and support that you've shown me so far. If you know anyone that will find this video series beneficial, please feel free to share the video. And with that, let's jump right into it. So we're back into Adobe Photoshop, and when doing this type of work, I like to use masking. There's a lot of details in this somewhat simple illustration, but to go through piece by piece and try to color it, it would be, you can obviously do that, but I think there's a more efficient way of doing that, and I'd like to share that with you. So what I've done is set up a demonstration on how masking and clipping mask work. So I will hide the T&J line work, and I've drawn this simple box shape for this demonstration. So typically how masking works is the way I do it is I create a solid mask of the entire object that I want to color in. And you're left with the simple object silhouette and the line work. So then I copy the mask layer based on how many separate parts the object I'm coloring in has. So in this case, there's 3 sides. So I'll create 2 additional layers, and I'll use the original mask as the 3rd layer. So with 3 copies made in the layer stack, I will then remove each side to create a mask, if that makes sense. So side 1 has a mask, side 2 will have a mask, and I'll use the original mask, the overall mask, for the 3rd side. So now when I select a side of the box that I want to color in, I'll select that layer, and then I'll add a layer on top of that. And the layer that's on top of the mask, I will create a clipping mask. And what the clipping mask will allow me to do is select a color. I'll make it bright enough so it's clearly distinguishable. And so the beauty of that now is anytime I paint on this side, I can just go through without it leaving the line edge area. So it's staying inside the mask. So I'll do that again for the other side. I'll make it active. I'll create a layer on top of that, convert that layer to a clipping mask. I'll select another color, red, hit OK. So now when I paint that layer, everything stays inside the mask area, and it allows me to efficiently and quickly block in the colors of my object. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's get back to T&J. So we're back to the T&J file. So based on what I just showed you in that last little demo, here's a breakdown of how I've broken down this T&J design using the masking and clipping mask. So I have the whole mask layer, and I duplicated that based on the amount of objects I felt I needed to complete the color in this illustration. So the whole mask, I have a mask for the head, a mask for the arms, a mask for the comb, a mask for the shirt, a mask for the pants, a mask for the shoes, a mask for the clippers, and lastly, a mask for the charm. So, and I've also created a color selection palette for me to quickly select the colors that I'll be filling and using as base colors for this design. And this color scheme is based on the color scheme of the original T&J design. So I'm trying to stay true to the original concept and keep everything as close to that as possible with a few exceptions. So with that being said, I'll get started coloring this thing in, and I'll probably speed up the video for the sake of time. And like I said, always feel free if you have a suggestion based on what I'm doing. If you're a Photoshop expert, which I am not, if you have a better way of doing something and you see it, please reach out to me, drop a comment, ask questions. I'll do the best to answer the questions and follow up. But with that being said, let's get started. So this first pass of color in the T&J will be base colors. And base colors meaning just the flat colors of all the objects as they appear without the effects of light and shadow. So there'll be the medium tones of all the colors, and I'll just block those all in. next color pass I will create will be adding shadows. And based on the original concept, we know that the light is coming from the left side, the upper left side. So when I add my shadows to all of my colors, then I will make sure that I understand that the light's coming from the upper left and add the shadows accordingly. Now finally, I'll go back in and add the highlights and details to the T&J design. Remembering that the light source is coming from the upper left side, and I'll make sure that as I add my highlights, I'll keep that in mind. We finally made it. Thank you for all the love and support along the way. I know it's kind of been a long series, and it gets tough, when you're not used to hearing yourself talk, and you have to listen back to your recordings of yourself talking. You can kind of get caught up on the idea of like, man, this is not perfect enough. Oh, wow, this is how I sound, but I'm trying to work myself through it. But again, thanks for all the love and support. I really, really appreciate it. And if you enjoy this content and you'd like to see more and support my channel, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. And I hope to see you in the next video.